What's up YouTube, NCG here, bringing you a Weather Painter deck profile. So, this is our final deck profile from the new Spirit Warriors set that came out last week. Obviously, we've already done Magical Musketeers, and we've already done 6 Samurai, so now it is the turn of the Weather Painters. As you can see before you, they are actually very, very beautiful artwork, like really, really colourful cards, and overall quite a nice art type. So without further ado, what we'll do is we'll take you through the deck profile and we'll kind of go through what each of these do. So we start off with the short print. Obviously, Konami like making the short prints the ones you want to get, like Chill with the Dark Lord. So this is the Weather Painter Snow. So, Weather Painter Snow, when this card is normal summoned, you can play one weather spell or trap card from your deck face up in your spell and trap card zone. So it is a 1 card off we go kind of move. The downside is 0 attack, but it is 2200 defense. The whole idea is with the Weather Painter spells and traps, you use their effects to banish your monsters, dealing some kind of effect to your opponent, and then return the weather monster back during the standby phase. So that's where you go defensive. Put it down offensive with 0 attack, balance it out for the effect, and then bring it back during the standby phase in defense position, protecting itself. You can only use this effect of Weather Painter Snow once per turn, and then once per turn during the standby phase of the turn after this card was banished from the field to activate the Weather card's effect, you special summon this banished card. So obviously, it works a little bit like Omega, so it's quite nice to kind of do, and like I said, the Weather Painter Snow is the 1 card kind of off we go play. Next up, triple Weather Painter Thunder. You can send 1 face-up continuous spell or trap card you control to the graveyard and place a weather spell or trap from your deck face-up in your spell and trap card zone. Obviously, it then has the other effect that it gets to return if it's banished using a weather spell card. So the idea is, if you either have a dead weather spell or trap card on the field, what you've got to remember is you can only control 1 of each of the weather canvases, basically. So this kind of helps refresh or get you to one that you really, really want, especially if you top deck one that you don't want right now, or a double, you use the effect to clear one of the doubles off and then bring back in a new one. Next up, double Weather Painter Cloud. So if another face-up weather card you control is sent to the graveyard, you can target up to 2 weather spell or trap cards in your graveyard and place them face up on your spell and trap card zone. Again, it has the return effect when it's banished for a weather spell effect, or weather card effect. Next up, double Weather Painter Aurora. When this card is normal summoned, you can place 1 weather spell or trap card from your hand, deck, or graveyard face up to your spell and trap card zone. Your opponent cannot target the weather spells or trap cards you control with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. And then once per turn during the standby phase, if it's been banished because it activated a weather card effect, it gets to return. So Aurora is kind of the interest one. It does require that 1 tribute to kind of get her to the field, but you can help. It kind of helps continually circle your plays and gets you a bigger beater on board ready to go. Next up, we play the 1 Weather Painter Sun. If this card is in your graveyard, you can send 1 face-up continuous spell or trap card you control to the graveyard and special summon this card in defense position. And if you do, place 1 weather spell or trap card from your hand face-up in your spell and trap card zone. So you must have a spell or trap card, weather card in your hand in order to activate Sun's revival effect. Finally, the 1 Weather Painter Rain. Yes, for those of you out there, this will trigger some of you because it is the only one of the weather monsters that was a super. I'm not saying that sometimes obviously rarities kind of affect how good the cards are. It still would have been nice to see Weather Painter Rain as a secret just to kind of balance the set off, but regardless. If this card is special summoned, you place 1 weather spell or trap card from your hand face up into your spell and trap card zones. And then obviously it has the same revival effect. We then run triple Ash Blossom and the 1 Maxi because they are the most powerful hand traps in the game. If you do have them available to you, do run them. They will give you a certain edge in the weathery deck, just still to make it more fun than fully competitive at this moment in time, but it's still incredibly powerful. Of course, if you don't have Ash Blossoms, you can tag them out for stuff like Ghost Ogres, or of course you can kind of play around more with the spells and traps. But when we get to the spells and traps, you'll understand the ratios that I've gone with. Finally, we play double Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. Now, this card, the reason we play this is because he's incredibly powerful. You can make him immune by most of your spells and traps that you play, and you play a hell of a lot of continuous spells and traps. On top of that, like I said, if you want to get rid of the Ash Blossoms, you could put more of a Draco engine in if you wanted to and make it a 50-50 deck. But what you want to keep an eye on is you want to keep the ratios just right, because we are playing a Weathery deck, not a Draco deck. Okay, so now on to the spells. We play triple the Weather Snowy Canvas. Again, this is probably the best spell card in the deck for the Weatheries. The weather affect monsters in your main monster zones of this card's column and its adjacent column gains this effect. You can banish this card, quick effect, add one weather card from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot add cards from your deck to your hand for the rest of this turn except by drawing them. So it is a nice little searcher, and it basically gives free zones in front of it the ability to do so. And then on top of that, when you couple it with the rest of the weather canvases, the effects kind of stack on top of each other and make it incredibly powerful and irritating for your opponent to deal with. So this is your banish and search. And it's obviously a weather card, so you can search out the monsters you need as well. We play double weather cloudy canvas. So again, it gives it to the monster in front of it and its adjacent columns. You can banish this card, then target one face-up monster on the field, except during the damage step, which is real shame. A real shame, because if it was done during the damage step, it would have been really good. Halve its current attack for the rest of this turn, but it cannot attack directly this turn. So it kind of allows you to, let's say your opponent's got a big beater on board, you activate this effect, you banish your monster, you halve that opponent's monster's attack, and then it can't attack directly. So if you use the effect to bounce out, then it can't obviously gain that attack, and it can't attack directly, so it's very nice. You can only control one canvas, but it's not a once per turn, so it's very cool. You can balance out but like two of your monsters, halve the attacks, and then it just can't attack directly. So either you make it weak enough so it can't beat over your monsters, or you make it so it can't attack directly. We then play the one weather rainy canvas. I'm considering bumping this up, but the only issue is you're only allowed to play it at one anyway. So again, it gives it to the monster in front of it in the same column and adjacent. You can banish this card, then target one spell or trap card your opponent controls, quick effect, and return it to the hand. So it's a nice little, during the end phase, kind of bounce one of your opponent's spells and traps. Or if your opponent, let's say, activates a resort, and then they need to activate the effect secondly, you can bounce it back to hand. Obviously, I'm not saying you would do that, because then they just activate it again. But you kind of get the idea. Stuff like Union Hanger can kind of circle around and hold them off. The final canvas is Weather Sunny Canvas. You can banish this card, then target one monster you control. Quick effect, tribute that target, and if you do, special summon one the weather monster from your hand or graveyard, but not with the same name as the tributed monster had on the field. So it's kind of a one-for-one swap out, and it can kind of help get you your Aurora as well. It's really cool to kind of help move along the plays, but again, obviously your Aurora gets the effect when it's normal summoned, and it just helps kind of move it around a little bit. Next up, double Magic Planter. Because you can only control one of each of the canvases, ideally for your snow and your snow and cloud, you can use your Magic Plant to get a +2. On top of that, it also helps you get rid of Defissure if you ever want to get rid of it at certain points. The reason Defissure is so good is because you banish your monsters anyway for their effects. So you try, the whole technique behind Weather Painters is to never really allow your opponent to destroy your monsters and send them to graveyard. You always really want to try and tag them out using your canvases and then bring them back during the standby phase. Onto the traps, we play triple the Weather Thunder Canvas. So again, it gives it to the main monster zone in front of this card, and then the adjacent columns. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish this card, return that opponent's monster to the hand. So it's a nice little get around your opponent's monsters, bounce them back to hand, especially if they've put loads of resources into getting that monster out, especially like Deco Talker or any other link monster. Triple Drowning Mirror Force. Because you bounce out so much and you do have the ability to clear your own board, Drowning Mirror Force is actually really strong. And I think Mirror Forces are always dangerous because very few people are actually expecting them. Obviously, they might expect them a little bit more in this deck because of the way it works. But because you banish your monsters to go off, your Drowning Mirror Force can 9 times out of 10 be live. Triple Anti-Spell Fragrance. It is continuous for Masterpiece, it is continuous for Magic Planter, and it is also very helpful in the deck because you don't need to activate your spells and traps 9 times out of 10 from hand. You get to place them on the field using your effects, so it gets around the clause of Anti-Spell Fragrance, and especially in this Pendulum format with the Pendulum Magicians, this can deal certain damage. It can also slow down your opponent's plays if they're playing Spirals, and it's a very good card to main deck if you get to win that dice roll and kind of go first. It can be massively disruptive. Next we play the 1 Weather Auroral Canvas. When exactly 1 card is added to 1 player's hand, except during a damage step, you can banish this card, banish the added card, and if you do, that player draws 1 card. So it's kind of like a Dark Law, but it is in a 1-for-1. So what they might search a specific card, and you get to go, no, I'm going to rip that specific card out of your hand, but I'm going to let the gamble go through if you're going to draw 1. You only play it at 1. It's not a must-have, but it's still very, very useful. The 1 Torrential Tribute, because like I said, you can tag your own monsters out so they don't get destroyed, and TT can be just as useful as Drowning Mirror Force. The 1 Skill Drain, I believe if I've done this right, the monsters banish for cost, so they would leave. Just double check that. Yeah, because it's not a monster effect that banishes, it's a spell and trap cards that banish. So you banish them for cost, you then get to bring them back. So even though you're not getting the main effects of the monsters, you're ideally activating Skill Drain once you've got the effects off that you want. You're banishing them monsters, then they're coming back, so their skill drains aren't really affecting them. It will only affect your extra deck and stuff like that, and maybe your Masterpiece, but if you're going to be making Masterpiece, you're going to make him immune by traps. Finishing off with the 1 Solemn Warning, because it does out absolutely everything. Now, the extra deck is quite a standard rank 3 toolbox with a couple of little touches in there, and we're going to start off with the Link monsters. So we play double the Weather Painter Rainbow, very beautiful card, very strong card as well. It requires 3 weather monsters, it is a Link free. When your opponent would special summon a monster or monsters, quick effect, you can send this Link summon card to the graveyard, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. So it's a nice little solemn warning in a sense. Once per turn during the standby phase of the turn after this card was banished from the field to activate the weather card effect, you can special summon this banished card. The weather effect monster this card points to gains the following effect. So it's a nice little revival. It has the exact same effect as the rest of the Reveries. When a card or effect is activated, quick effect, you can banish this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So it can point up to 3 monsters, and you can just go banish, negate, banish, negate, banish, negate. It's an incredibly powerful Link monster, and the weakest thing about it is it's a 2400 attack. Like, its Link markers are perfect. It doesn't give your opponent any. Its attack is meh, okay. Its requirements of 3 isn't too bad, and its effects are really, really nice. Next up we play the 1 Gaia Saber and the 1 Decode Talker. You can double up Decode Talker if you want. I just quite like having Gaia Saber as an option. 2 Akeshic Magicians, really, really cool card, incredibly powerful. You get to banish your stuff anyway. Being able to bounce your opponent's stuff as well can be massively, massively helpful. And then the rank 3 toolbox, we play double Phantom Knights of Breaksword because it is probably one of the best rank 3s around, not including Dante. 1 47 Nightmare Shark. 1 number 30 Acid Golem of Destruction. Super Quantum Met Beast Grand Pulse. Wind Up Zenmaias. And Levier, the Sea Dragon, because if there are those times when you banish your monsters and you want to speed it up a little bit, Levier can be quite helpful. Next up, the last 2 spots are entirely up to you, but I do like to quite use 2 Synchros, Coral Dragon and Stardust Charge Warrior, because all of my weather monsters are level 3s minus Aurora. If I do open up with loads and loads of Ash Blossoms, I could obviously normal summon an Ash Blossom and sync up into a Coral Dragon, pitch a card, pop a card, off I go and draw when it leaves the field. Or, of course, with Stardust Charge Warrior, I can just make him draw a card and then clear off my opponent's board if they've got loads of monsters on board that are below 2000 attack. And obviously, if I've got a Weathery monster, I can banish the Weathery monster, half that opponent's attack, and then just go and attack and make sure I can get over it with Stardust Charge. Anyway, that is it for the deck profile. A little longer than usual, but I have tried to explain what each of the weather monsters kind of do for you guys, and just kind of how powerful they can be. They are a fun deck at this moment in time. It doesn't mean that they can't show their faces at YCSs or regionals, but they're probably more local based as is. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope this helps. Hope this gives you a couple of ideas. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share for loads more. And until next time, guys, see ya.